My name is Aivar, and I've worked in the education sphere for essentially all my career. So for the past 10 years, and have moved through the public administration of education in Estonia. Essentially now I'm working as chief expert on education digitalization. And essentially what my team and I are trying to do is to build the core building blocks for digitalizing the sort of educational experience itself. And so we see the last 20-30 years where we've tried to essentially provide the sort of digital tools so that schools are connected to the internet, have those basic tools, classrooms to access through computers, and have the digital competencies on the side as well to actually use technology. So we're now moving into a new phase where we're actually digitizing curriculums, where we're giving more and more autonomy to the students and using technology to provide a platform for that autonomy. So I always, I've found it very helpful to think about what we're trying to do as creating a sort of new gravitational field where schools can move to. So we're in an educational model where if you try very, very hard, if you have a good principal at your school, if you have good management, if you have good teachers, you're moving away from that gravitational center that we have in education, where it's 45 minutes in classroom, then you have a break, then you have a 45-minute classroom again. So from that logistical model, we're trying to propose a new one where it's easier for schools to fall into because it's not a logistical nightmare, to be honest. So it's providing the tools for the schools to enjoy their autonomy, for the teachers to have their autonomy to work within those confines, and now increasingly with the new educational strategy in Estonia, we're trying to facilitate the autonomy of the students so that they can make their plans, they can guide themselves through the learning experiences that we have as a society agreed that these are the learning goals that we need to meet, everyone in the country, and provide the platform for additional sort of materials, additional opportunities for students to go beyond the curriculum, go beyond these learning goals that the state or that the community in Estonia has decided that these are the right goals for our educational system. It's very much we're a sort of democratic society, civil society based way of running our education system here. So I got a little bit sidetracked from the question, but that's essentially it. In the past 2 years, the educational system has had a severe shock, I think, in the entire world. But I think we, at some point, looking at research data that we got from what changed during the pandemic and what's sort of looking at what we've learned from this, realized that sort of the national plan for developing education in Estonia really has the same goals as what we observed in the pandemic. So we really want to see students go through the educational system and come out of the other end as autonomous, sort of self-directing people. We want them to realize where their gaps in knowledge are, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and be able to essentially guide themselves to make sure that they have the best sort of life in the most general sense of that word. So so what the pandemic really did outline is that some students have acquired a really good sense of time management, of organizing their work, organizing themselves in a way that that they understand how to motivate themselves to continue doing something you don't really want to do, for example. So so there was a big, I would say, and I'm generalizing here, but there's like a third of the students did better than they did in class. A third didn't really care whether they were in class or were at home during the distance learning period, and the third did worse. And what we saw, what really made the students perform better, or what characterized those students, was the fact that they were really self-aware and they were really good time managers and self-managers. And that is a precursor for success in life in general. And we really want to see more of that happen. So in Estonia, before the pandemic even started, because the schools are very autonomous in Estonia, they already had distance learning days, some of them. If they wanted to have that, they could say to the students that that this is a home working at home day. You can come to the school if it's inconvenient for you to do this at your house. But here are the tasks you have to do for that day, or here is a subject you have to sort of report on. And the students were given these signals of you need to take care of yourself. You need to plan your day. You need to make sure that you're motivated for that day and you've well rested for that day. So so giving that responsibility over to the students is it was important before, but like even on a personal note, my eldest daughter went to the first grade this year, and the principal of the school on the very first day, when we had our sort of parent meeting, said that what we've learned in the past 2 years in this school was that we had more people, more students graduating with really top grades, and the proportion was bigger than when we were teaching them in school. So we have to pay attention to this, and we have to make sure that we take good lessons from this. And what one of their big lessons was that once every month they send or keep the students at home to study, to organize their day themselves, and the teacher have a self-development day that with the in the morning, and in the afternoon they get to check up on the students, make sure that they're on track, help anyone who isn't if they need help. So it's good that we're taking the right lessons from the pandemic and really keeping them within the school life as a norm, essentially. Well, at first, when everyone got to go back to classes, and this was flickering in and out in Estonia, at least some schools were on distance learning period when they had a critical mass of people or students, staff falling ill. Everyone had digital exhaustion. I think it's in no future vision. I think no education system in the world thinks that it's going to be all digital. I think no one wants that. Not the parents, not the policymakers, not the students, no one. I think it's about, in the future at least, trying to make the best use of where it's most beneficial. And what we're actively trying to find out is what type of supporting structure, and we're really getting into technical, legal, and other issues here, and how to set something like that up. How do I, if I want to learn Python in 2 weeks, how do I know Python? For technology to help me do that, it must know a lot about me, about how I work, what I already understand, what I don't understand, because we're not going to be able to give a personal know-it-all tutor to every student. We're going to have to use technology more and more to do that. So it's more about doing good data management and making good decisions based on that. And what I mean, and it's very important to understand here that we don't want to create any type of system for the future where we're guiding the students automatically on any level. We want them to make decisions, what they want to learn, and then having the best input on how to achieve that. That is something you can automate. I think everyone would be very welcoming to like learning something you really want to learn, and then having help in guiding you to how to structure something so that you actually learn that thing. So that type of help is very, very necessary in the future. But for now, I think we need to really balance out because technology is not really advanced that far yet. Everything that I described just now. And we really need to keep a balance here and go from experiment to experiment, trying to figure out what the best sort of educational system, this interoperable, digitized education system might be in the future. Take one lesson after another and implement that. But right now, I think teachers simply need to make the best use of the tools that are out there, be reasonable in their use, and really agree on what their school, for example, as a decision-making unit is going to be trying to achieve, and how to make that ecosystem within the school as coherent as possible for the students, for the teachers, for the parents who are trying to access that information. Some parents have 5 kids, and if they have 5 different management systems for those kids, if it gets to that level of complexity, then it's simply a hassle. It's not a benefit for anyone involved, I think. So it's really about making good decisions on where those decisions need to be made. We in Estonia, at least, are very much in the belief that school needs to have a lot of autonomy to make good decisions and believe in those decisions. The same goes for teachers, and increasingly so, we want to have those decisions made by students as well. So it's layering of those obligations, rights, and having that good balance there regarding digital tools as well. We do hand the schools a lot of trust. We expect them to do the best that they can in educating their students. Of course, there is a disparity that comes from freedom. So you have schools that do not really take, for example, providing digital skills, digital competencies to students. They don't think that's important, and they might not actually provide those skills on that high of a level. But what we see, and if you give freedom to schools, they really try to learn from one another. They really believe in what they're trying to achieve, and it becomes less of a struggle, the ministry or some authority saying that you have to do this. Rather, it's the school who is striving to do something better and better. I think if you compare the two systems of coercion and freedom like that, then you see that the best performing education systems are the ones that give that freedom to strive for higher. At least the students, the teachers, the management of the school knows why they're doing something, and that is in I think any educational psychologist's mind, at least, the main core reason why you learn, why you want to learn, why you build a coherent picture of the world, essentially. So it's about giving that freedom and desire to actually build something. So the way we envision personalization, and the way we really want to see the system develop is to have as much competition within it as possible. So we only want to have the core national registries where we keep data that is really necessary for everyone involved, student names, all of that data, and for these autonomous different systems to have access based on who is supposed to have access. So we really want to see an interoperable ecosystem, essentially, where information is moving around based on who is authorized to access it, while at the same time making that decision as easy as possible, as transparent as possible, and then if those access points are there, making it as easy as possible to transfer data. Because if we want to have a technology environment, an ecosystem that really tries to help us, that ecosystem needs to know a lot about us. But at the same time, we really need to know, we need to trust and make sure that there are safeguards in place for that data to be really secure as well. So it's so we really want to see a clear set of standards, interoperability standards come to be. We're starting to work on the legal side of setting a comprehensive sort of agreement in place on how to transfer that data, and it's up to then the school, if they want to be part of something like that, they have to make sure that they see the benefits in that first, and do trust themselves in that system enough so that they can communicate that to the parents, the students, and make sure that everyone involved is invested in something like that because they see the benefit. And what the main benefit, again, what we want to see from the system is to make the educational sort of logistical system more flexible. It's actually the exact polar opposite of centralizing data, because it's more about having a lot of different service providers and keeping as much data where it is generated as possible. So this is how essentially the entire Estonian public administration system works, and how a lot of good technology-based services work, is to have a lot of independent parts and keeping the data where it's generated, and that's how you keep the system secure. So not one breach can lead to a lot of trouble, and the bad guys, if they really want to do some damage, they have to break into a lot of different systems. So that's how we've sort of built the entire public service system in Estonia. So as to provide something like 99% of our public services online in Estonia. So we essentially want to use that same approach, because we've seen a lot of benefits to that in education as well. And not just for administrative data, we want to see the same system be used for actual learning content, for actual learning experiences. And again, it's not about doing everything online. It's about getting the sort of learning tracks, the footprints registered. So we want to see as much of the activities as possible, as it's necessary, taking place outside the sort of technological environment. But at the same time, we need to have those footprints so that we can actually have the system that is providing benefit to the students. Regarding the student data, we see it as the main benefit, the main beneficiary of a system like this needs to be the student. They need to feel safe. Students need to feel safe in an environment, because every day we're deciding what to sort of reveal to someone else. Right now, as I'm giving this interview, I'm also deciding on what should I talk about, what shouldn't I talk about, and this is going on constantly in school as well. So we cannot have the student having that decision being taken away from them, that they no longer can say that they want everything to be revealed about themselves. So what that essentially amounts to is testing. In school, you have to do some testing to make sure that you're actually becoming more knowledgeable and you're learning. So those are really because of that requirement. You have to let us know. You have to give us this data, which it essentially is, about what you know, what you don't know. That feels like a violation to us as well. If you're being constantly asked questions you don't want to answer because you don't know the answers to them, or they're uncomfortable for some reason. So there needs to be a balance there, and testing should be all right. But if you're trying to learn something new, you shouldn't feel as if you're being watched all of that time. You should always know who has access to your data. You should always have control over that access, and you should always be able to delete data that you don't want to be out there. Of course, we have to make an exception for some spots along the way where the school has to make sure that you're actually learning, and that they're doing their jobs. That's essentially their jobs. So there needs to be a balance there. This balance needs to be struck all the time, because the norms change all the time. So societal norms on what is okay to share, what is not okay to share, that's essentially culture, So it's so this is changing all the time, and this is a struggle, but this is for the future. Like, we're really right now in the beginning stages of this, but we need to be aware of what is okay in society to use this data for, what is not. So this is something that we are struggling now and will continue to struggle with, I think, into the future. Because even now we're looking at privacy as a legal issue, not as a psychological or sort of user experience issue, and it's really hard to go past that legal part. And I myself am heading a research project into this sort of first of these schools that we're actually creating this data space, and the sort of legal side of it takes up a lot of time, a lot of resources. So it's we're always balancing out what we want to be as transparent as possible without actually seeming to give so much information that the person who we're talking to or giving that information out to loses interest automatically, because well, we're all familiar with the sort of, so you scroll all the way down and agree, push on that button, but it's essentially that is a horrible thing to do, that these companies put out that information like slate, just give that out there without giving you a comprehensive sort of shortcut few points way of understanding what's going on with that information. And it's that should be the way, like it should be a layer of okay, this is general what we're going to do with your information. This is the next level of detail if you want to go there, and this is a full disclosure of everything that's going on in the background, so that if you're not comfortable, you can actually look as deep as possible, as much as possible, and check up on it. So in the national sort of infrastructure, we can always look up the logs. Who has checked up on my information? Which agency, which organization has looked at my data? And if there's something wrong with that log, I can query them, ask them, why did you look at my data? So this gives you reassurance that that you're the owner. So they're going to have to ask you, or at least we get logged and we see what's going on. Well, I hope in the future we will have a lot more focus as we go along in our school life to work in a multitude of ways to essentially guarantee the basic same skills as a baseline. But the way we actually approach that is completely different to possibly our classmates, course mates, however you want to call them. So I really want to see us moving towards sort of learning communities, essentially, we could call it that, and so that you have peers you work together with and can share things with, and you have a mentor or two in terms of students in lower grades. And as you go higher and higher, you can get more of those. But the way we actually go through education needs to adapt to simulate our working lives better and better. And by choice, I don't mean the softening of the sort of human sort of condition where if this isn't okay for you, you can go and choose another activity. I mean building perseverance within a person to actually do things that are difficult, to go through hardships, but do it in a manageable way, so that we're looking at each individual, so we're not breaking them, so that they get disheartened, don't want to really learn anymore, because learning is really fun if you get into the zone of learning something that you're really interested in. you can go through a lot of hardships in doing that, but you don't care because it's pulling you along. So we really want to use technology as much as possible to find that zone in each person and make them, through personalization, essentially adapt to them, but at the same time make them tough as well.